Thank you. And I am so excited because you are one of my first audiences that I get to share this suggestive and revolutionary material since my book was finally published a couple weeks ago. So thank you. Yes, you know how daunting that process can be. And the purpose of writing this material was not as a convenient excuse to hold myself away for 10, 20 hours in my writing desk, although that seems convenient because I have 5 kids and 2 teenagers, and you know what I'm talking about, some of you, yes. But I wrote this book because I thought I was spiritual. I had a very religious, spiritual grandmother, and she seemed to have the formula. And I wanted to become more enlightened. I wanted to plug into my bliss. And so I wanted to follow along that formula. And she said there was a better place than this place. And I thought to myself, well, is there something wrong with this place? Is it bad? I mean, I just got here. And she said, don't take too much comfort in the material pleasures of the world. Don't take too much material pleasures of the world. And be careful, because your body, it will yearn and desire to plug in to the pleasures of the world. And your body will have these desires of the material world. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because my body was working miraculously and the world was so beautiful. And I thought, well, then there's this no-touch policy. I didn't get that, because didn't a higher power than me make all this and create all this? So from the start, I felt intrinsically guilty, sort of broken, like I was made of something bad. And that seeped in deep inside. And I looked, around, and this formula had a dismal success rate. I mean, I wasn't the only one. It seemed to have also other people were not successful in it. So I came to the startling conclusion that either we are all hopeless, dismal, broken failures, or the formula for enlightenment was wrong. So are you ready? Are you ready? I want to hear. I am ready. I'm ready, because we're going to have fun in this hour, and you may hear some things that you really haven't heard before. So we have been told that a large portion of us, our physical bodies, are dense. They're inferior. They're lower. Most spiritual and religious teachings teach us that in order to become more clear, in order to ascend, in order to become more spiritual, we must transcend these bodies of ours, and we must transcend the physical world. But my question is, why would the all-knowing, all-powerful, all-neutral force of life put so much stock into this physical body of ours and into the physical world if there weren't a purpose to it? Most spiritual teachings teach us that there is only one way to become spiritual, and that's through our ethereal essence. It's this essence that we can't see, feel, touch, or taste. And really, that's kind of a dilemma for those of us who want a meaningful existence. Not only that, we are told that there's only a few qualified people who can show us the way. And these qualified people are the religious authorities, the shamans, the priests, the ministers, etc., who can show us this way out. And they have the formulas, they have the techniques to show us the way out of this so-called lower, inferior, dismal experience that we're born into. But what's so interesting is that they not only tell us that this state that we're born into is keeping us back. It is the hindrance behind our awakening. It is the hindrance behind our awakening. When someone tells you it is hindering your awakening, you don't nurture it. You don't take care of it. You transcend it. You want to deny it. You want to discard and unplug from it. I need to tell you a story. There's a 35-year-old woman, and she stretches and she yawns. And she gets out of bed, and she sits cross-legged on the side of her bed. And as she takes 3 deep breaths, she finds herself connected to all that is. And she starts to hear the birds chirping outside her window. And she feels at peace. And as she looks outside her window, she starts to see the wind blowing outside and the leaves and the trees. And she sees the quality of the absolute that's intrinsic in every living thing, every rock, every tree branch, even every piece of dirt. And she feels connected to all that is. I mean, life is good. Life is magical. As she's in that place. And then all of a sudden she starts hearing crying from the hallway. It's her daughter. Her daughter's awakened. Oh my God, she thinks, I've got to go to yoga. I got to be there in 15 minutes. And just then she gets a cell phone call. Patty, I'm coming over. I'm going to be there in 2 minutes. And by the way, remember, Johnny, he volunteered. We're coming over. It's a family reunion tonight. Oh my God, she thinks. That husband of mine, he always volunteers me for a family dinner, and I never have time, and he never asks me permission. She feels the anger and the resentment starting to well up inside her. She feels all this anxiety. I mean, where did all the birds go? She runs down the hallway to get her daughter changed. And she steps into a puddle of urine on the floor. I mean, that dog, he peed on the floor again. And as she tries to get the baby and herself in the car, she finds herself in bumper-to-bumper traffic. She's already 10 minutes late to yoga. And she finds herself, she's already screaming at the people in front of her, get outside, Grandpa, get off the road. Doesn't anyone know how to drive around here? She's completely out of her mind. She's angry. She's disturbed. And she doesn't think it could get any worse. She already starts to smell an odor coming from the back seat of her car. She looks back and she sees her daughter starting to cry. I mean, why is it that most of us find ourselves, we cannot plug back? We're in this wonderful connected state one moment and we can't plug back into it. Shouldn't something that should be so natural, why is it so unfamiliar? Shouldn't something that should be so intrinsic to our nature be easy to get to? I mean, after all, there's billions of solutions that are aimed at us every day. I mean, the self-help industry is $11 billion strong. With antidotes, the latest information, the latest books, seminar, the latest workshop. But then, that's just it. These solutions keep you out here when everything's going on in here. How can enlightenment be another 10-step plan or a formula to memorize when it's a revelation of what's already here? You are already awakened. You are already awakened. Would you believe me? Just like you cannot be semi-pregnant, you cannot be semi-awakened. Just like you cannot be semi-pregnant, you cannot be semi-awakened. It's part and parcel of who you are. It's your innate framework. It's your entire existence. There are no hopeless failures in a world of imperfect perfections. And you were never late because the universe is not a timekeeper. A rose is still a rose, whether it is a seed or fully blossomed. at all stages, at all outward appearances, is always expressing its whole potential. It is still a rose, and it's always okay, just as it is. And so are we. So are we. Whether we're dormant in a seed stage or fully blossoming, we are still expressing our whole potential. It's just our awareness towards our awakening that comes and goes. There is no difference between the seeker or the guru. They're both awakened. It's just the guru who has realized it. And as I said before, we have been told that that we have an inferior portion of us. We have been told that this body of ours is lower, it's dense, it's keeping us, it's hindering us from becoming enlightened, from becoming awakened. But where did this come from? Have we questioned this before? Have we questioned its origin or even its validity? Where did this come from? I have been asking this question my entire life, and that is what took me to this state here. So we are born dismally doomed from the start. Albert Einstein once wisely said, "You cannot solve a problem at the same level of awareness that created it." And currently, our society is only offering solutions on our brokenness because we feel we have something wrong with us. And that is keeping us on this perpetual cycle of seeking outside solutions to fix something that we think is broken. But this keeps us always seeking and searching for these solutions for our brokenness. And these solutions are only aimed at someone who has a problem. But you didn't have a problem to begin with. You were never broken. And there was nothing to fix. It's no wonder we fail, because these things will never work. We do not need more therapy, we need more clarity. Because there's a huge flaw in this argument. We didn't get just plopped down here like some aliens from outer space. Your ancestry is not Uncle Tom and Aunt Minnie. Your ancestry dates farther back from there. We were, from the first ancestry, we were formed from the ancient molecules and atoms 13.7 billion years ago. This is when we unraveled, precious particle by precious particle. Ever since then, in the perfect time sequence, in the perfect place. How could anything that the universe has been unraveling, particle by particle, be in any way flawed, broken, or inferior? Our bodies are the first garment we wear when we enter here. And they house the wondrous instrumentation that works from the very first moment of life. They allow us to experience the seminar, taste the honey, touch the cheek of the child. They allow us to experience everything we experience in life. And they are the wondrous vessels that have transported us across the vast ocean of time and space. You are the most important thing, the only thing that ever happened. You're the Big Bang, the unraveling. The past, present, and future is you. That is your sovereign ancestry. You are made of royal clay. Suffering is optional, but form is not. We are consciousness experiencing ourselves in form. My friends, consciousness is nothingness, emptiness without form. You are doing your dance in form. You are doing Can you imagine if all the butterflies and the peacocks said to one another, "I will pluck my feathers in order to become more spiritual"? Or that they looked at each other and said, "Well, I'm going to become more holy. I will pluck myself of everything that's physical." Or if the trees said to one another, no, 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 I'm going to abstain from the water and the sunshine. I must wither away from this place. It's too tempting. It's too physical in order to gain more spiritual holy ground. It is absurd. So where did this come from? And why are we continuing to believe in it and follow it? Beliefs. Words bind or remind us of who we are. I want you to remember that. Words bind us or remind us of who we are. You know, I followed this formula. I believed in this formula. And I mean, after all, it was endorsed by the Spiritual Association of the World. But yet, you cannot have it both ways. Either we are made of universal God stuff, perfect, or everything that the force of life made has a flaw in it. Everything. And I took my grandmother's word, and I believed in it, and I wanted to believe in it. But every time I went to the woods as a child, and I went in front of a tree, or I sought solace in nature, the physical world drew me to the present moment. The physical world was my solace. But when I grew up, and I had to go back to my everyday life, like all of us do, we have jobs, divorces, we have messes. I couldn't bring the trees to me. I couldn't bring the flowers. But what I tried to do is like we all try to do. We try to get through our lives. We try to get through our to-do lists and our errands. And what I realized is that we're not here to get through our everyday life. Our everyday life is we are here to let our everyday life shape us, mold us. We are here. Those seemingly insignificant to-do lists, errands, trips to Target, post office, all that stuff we have to do is here to let us shape us, mold us. Let us show kindness, compassion, generosity. That was my sacred contract. That was my ministry. Was I looking into the eyes of the checkout counter, to the man at the checkout counter? Was I really there when I was talking to my daughter? My everyday life was extraordinary life. That was my physical world, my physical life was my everyday awakening awareness portal. And it was available 24/7. I wasn't here to escape the physical world. I was here to jump in. The universe had unraveled this for us with the perfect props, the perfect stage, and the perfect set for our reawakening. Imagine that. And I could no longer realign back to the traditional spiritual teachings, even now that are still preaching wholeness and oneness, while rejecting a huge part of us. Isn't wholeness integration, not fragmentation? I could no longer align with most religious and spiritual teachings that are preaching wholeness while still separating and fragmenting parts of us. True unity, freedom, wholeness, and release is in total acceptance, where there is nothing to deny, nothing to reject, and nothing to condemn, where simply everything exists as is. Is it not? Is it not? What is the current template for enlightenment? What is the current template for enlightenment? The formula for enlightenment is A, leave your day-to-day life and go remote. I mean, that is the current template. Go remote, as far away as you can. A monastery, a convent, under a tree. I mean, that's pretty much what we've been taught, right? And B, leave your everyday life as much as you can. Abstain. Abstination was seen as a greater reward to heaven. Self-flagellate, self-immolation, that was something you could sacrifice and you could be seen as more spiritual, more holy. But we have been trained, this is how we've been trained to reward pain over pleasure, or suffering over struggle over ease. We have been trained for this. This formula, A plus B equals enlightenment. Did any of you ride a horse to the convention center today? No, because you moved on. Because those things don't work for you anymore in the life you lead. Why then are we still determined to follow a formula that was passed down thousands of years ago? Have we questioned this formula? Does it apply to our lives anymore now that we have commutes, jobs, screaming 2-year-olds, teenagers, and an internet that connects us globally? It's not so easy to go remote anymore. It doesn't make sense anymore. Maybe we should question this. Words bind or remind us of who we are. Remember that. And where do words come from? They're thoughts. And so maybe we should talk about beliefs. You know, when I wrote this book, I obviously questioned and I challenged and I came up with a lot of answers. And I'm going to reveal, of course, one of the major things I came up with today. And I'm sure, are you ready to hear that answer? I want to hear I'm ready. Are you ready? Well, I'm not going to tell you yet, but I am going to tell you later. But I will say, and I know I had it on the slide, when nothing goes right, I did go left. I went totally left. I went totally crazy trying to find the origins to some of these things I questioned, because it wasn't working for any of us. There's so many unhappy people, and it was because myself was unhappy, and I wasn't able to plug into this bliss that we all try to find, and permanently. But I want to know, what are beliefs anyway? Beliefs are unexamined, unquestioned. They're unexamined, unquestioned thoughts. They're not truths. They're not absolutes. Like truths are, I have two hands. Beliefs are things like Jews are cheap, women are inferior, Kentucky is the best state to be born in, or the Reds are going to win the World Series. Those are beliefs. They're not truths. They're not absolutes. But they start out as thoughts. They're unexamined, and they get repeated, and they get repeated over and over, and they get spread out to thousands, millions of human beings, and they gain momentum. They become a force all their own, and they start to dictate they shape the way we think and feel. And they dictate our decision making in the world. Nothing has meaning until it is given to us by our tribe, our authorities, our parents, our society. Nothing. We are born blank. Our brains are just receptive vehicles. We're born blank, and beliefs enter our brains like puzzle pieces, and they form a lens through which we see the world. And we become mini replicas of our tribe, of our parents, of our authorities. And we go out into the world, and that's how we know how to think, how to judge what's right or wrong, how to make decisions, because our tribe gives us these beliefs, these ways of being in the world. So you can actually tell where someone is from by their beliefs. Did you know that? Take the color red, for example. In America, if you put red together with green, it's Christmas time. It's exchanging, giving and taking, giving and receiving. In Eastern Asian cultures, it's actually a sign of purity. In Thailand, brides wear red to weddings. If you go to China, it's a symbol of good luck, because you'll see in Chinese restaurants a lot. You'll see red in Chinese restaurants. It's good luck. But in the Middle East, it's a sign of danger, because you'll see them wear amulets for the against the evil eye. So beliefs are that powerful. They're actually localized. And do you think people would die for their beliefs? We've seen it. There's a terrorist for one country is a freedom fighter for another country. If I told you that a belief would be so ingrained that we would not question it, it's just passed down from generation to generation, even if it was keeping it from your happiness, would you believe me? Yes. And I'll tell you, there's a fascinating study done by a colleague of mine, J.R. Stevenson. Put 4 monkeys in a cage and suspended a ripe bunch of bananas from a pole. And of course, what happened? A hungry monkey went up the pole to grab the ripe set of bananas, and she was squirted down by a torrent of cold water. And after several attempts, she never went up again. And one by one, the monkeys reached up when they were hungry for the bananas. And one by one, they were squirted down by the torrent of cold water, and they stopped going up to the pole again. And they took one of the monkeys out, and they replaced her with a new monkey. And of course, what did she do? She went up the pole to grab the bananas, and the 3 monkeys pulled her down. And screeching and screaming pulled her down. And she never went up to she never reached up the pole, she never reached up to the bananas. One by one, each of the original monkeys was replaced with a new monkey. And one by one, the other monkeys would grab and try to pull her down. And they never reached up again. Before you knew it, all of the original monkeys were replaced with new monkeys, and yet not one of them ever went near that pole, not ever went up to reach those bananas, and not one of them knew why. And not one of them questioned why. It is a staggering account of how we follow along our predecessors merely by belief. How many of us follow the thoughts and beliefs of our predecessors merely out of belief? We don't even question why. And even something that could be our happiness, something beautiful like, the monkeys eat bananas. It's time perhaps we start questioning. Words bind or remind us of who we are. How many of you still believe in Santa? I hope no one was going to answer yes. But you probably dressed up as a kid. You probably dressed up in costumes as a kid, Captain Hero or Cinderella. And when you dressed up, you believed that you possessed the power in that costume. You believed you could fly, or girls, when we had the magic wands, we believed we had the magic wand, the power of the magic wand. And when your parents told you that the tooth fairy was no longer real, or Santa was no longer real, you cried. Oh my God, my parents lied to me. And you mourned the loss of that belief, because beliefs have power. They are magical. They're absolutely magical. Myths, according to the Wikipedia definition, are stories. They usually contain a hero, some supernatural event. And these were originally told, these stories were told to all of us, passed down. They explained the relationship of the world. They were a way of explaining the universe and the relationship between us and the divine. And they also were a way of being instructional. This is the way people used to tell how things worked in the world and how they wanted you to behave. You hear about tales of Zeus and the lightning, and the stories were used to show how you would be punished if you didn't go about your tribe's code of behavior. So the point is that these stories were made up, fictional. They were completely false. The greatest, most influential story of all. Do you remember the story I told you I alluded to I was going to tell you? I'm going to tell you that story now, what I dug up. The most influential story that has taken away and hindered our freedom is the story of Adam and Eve, man's fall from grace, which you can find in the Old Testament, book of Genesis. In this story, a woman named Eve curiously, naturally, instinctively reaches out for the tree of knowledge, and she partakes in the eating of this tree of knowledge, this apple, and she is expelled from the Garden of Eden, the wondrous garden that has been unfolding since the beginning of time with abundant pleasures. This garden has been unfolding for us, by us, since the beginning. She's expelled from that garden. Not only that, it is told in the story that this proves her corrupt, vile, lower, dense, inferior nature. This, we are told, shows her natural desires, her lower, inferior desires and yearnings of her physical body. We are also told that if we partake in this, any more of this physical, these yearnings that we have of this world, of the desires, the natural instinctive desires we have of this body, that we will be punished by the very entity that gave us life in a time frame of forever, pretty much. And from then on, we are doomed to a dismal experience. We have two choices. We either burn in the flames of hell, or we have these religious authorities who will help us to ascend, who will help us to show us the way out of this experience that we're born into. This lower, inferior existence that we are born into. Do you see where I'm going with this? From then on, this is where the split happened between the religious and the physical world. From then on, you would never see them together again. And this is why we have to go to church in order to be spiritual. It wasn't, our everyday life was doomed. We were doomed. It was dismal. We would have to go to the religious authorities in order to become redeemed. We would have to leave this everyday existence. And this is where the split came from. But I even thought then this doesn't make sense because this compartmentalizes life. And life is as if, we have job life, home life, work life, spiritual life, religious life, but it's all one life. It's all one life. It's very staggering, actually. Can you imagine what this costs us as this story was passed down from generation to generation? What's even staggering is that the mythical, magical stories were origin in nature. They were passed around campfires, and they later became written sacred texts, and that is what the religious texts were all based on. So our religions are based on unproven, unchallenged, mythical stories, which means that our religious and spiritual teachings are based on unchallenged, unproven, unquestioned, mythical stories. Which means that our religious and spiritual teachings are based on subjective beliefs. Subjective beliefs. So here we are on the verge of a mass reawakening. We're trying to wake up, but we're refusing to grow up. We're refusing to grow up because we're still stuck. It's like being 60 years old and still playing with our Legos and Tinker toys. Because we're still stuck in this mythical, magical story. We're still blindly accepting these beliefs. It's not our body. Our body was not the problem. Our physical world is not the problem. It's not that we didn't chant enough, fast enough, pray enough, get another book or seminar, attend another 10-step program. It was the belief we had in our body. It was the belief we had in the world. It was the belief we had in the story. And the blind investment we had in the stuff out there that we thought would have to fix us. That we thought we needed that to fix us. I have a really beautiful story that is out of my book, which I've been waiting so long. Oh my God, can you imagine? I'll never get tired of saying it. From my book. From my book. There's no one to blame. Blame just keeps us in the same stuck mindset that says if only things were different, if only I were different, that keeps you on that same hamster wheel of I'm broken. And we're never broken. There was nothing to fix. And the Buddha, it's like the Buddha was known to have said, if you knew how perfect things were, you would tilt your head back and laugh at the sky. You would tilt your head back and laugh at the sky. Welcome to the airport of Eden. This is beautiful. You, my magnificent friends, are an airport called the Airport of Eden. It is a spectacular airport filled with beauty and light. It has high vaulted ceilings and the most spectacular array of colors and sights and sounds. It is an airport bustling with activity and restlessness. Throngs of people are everywhere, and most of them are lugging large, bulky suitcases. On top of the suitcases are stacks of books, newspapers, and clippings that spill onto the floor, leaving a trail of debris. The passengers' ears are covered with headsets delivering the latest tips for fixing something about themselves. While overhead, the monitors are blaring some impending dangers everywhere. The travelers are looking for their gates, each of which is labeled with a destination that will deliver an amazing experience. As they pass by the gates, half-heartedly the travelers inspect them, not knowing which gate to choose, because each gate has something missing or something that should be changed or fixed. So the travelers move on, dragging their baggage after them, yet never seeming to find a gate that's suitable. This seed of doubt keeps them in limbo, unable to decide which gate to check into, for they don't feel any of them are right. And of course, there could be a better gate farther down. Some of the travelers feel that the destinations are too far away or too expensive. They don't feel they have the money, time, or requirements for such destinations. So they keep walking past the gates, hoping to find one that's a better fit. And they keep passing by shops and kiosks and more stuff to buy, newspapers and magazines and something else that's going to be more interesting. Maybe something else to find this missing fix, something else to fix what's broken. Some other piece of advice or some other thing to give them the leap of faith. One never knows. It might be another elixir that they need. If they could just heal that part of themselves that went wrong, if they could just figure out a way to stop being who they are and try to become who they were taught to become, maybe they would find which gate to choose. But in a state of awareness, you are sitting in the lounge, witnessing this scene through open doors. You are having a drink. You are eating a delicious dinner. You are thoroughly enjoying the experience, grateful just to be a part of it all. Because you know, as you sit there It doesn't matter which gate you choose. It just matters that you choose one of the gates. All of the planes are going to the same destination. They're all going to have the same outcome. You know there was never a rush either. The journey was the destination all along. The most important part of this whole journey was to simply enjoy the experience. That is why we came here. That's why we came here. You all are so perfect. And the world will never see another one like you. Never. Your uniqueness in every respect is your gift. Life asks one thing of you, one, to be the full expression of yourself while you're here, so that you can leave your unique imprint on the world, to the people that you encounter, to your everyday extraordinary. Because that affects everything and everyone around you. That is your sacred contract. That is your profound awareness, enlightenment portal. It is your physical world. Enlightenment could never have been a 10-step plan to memorize. It was never a formula to acquire or something you could buy in a shop. It was a revelation of what was already there. We have been like Dorothy on that long yellow brick road, trying and seeking and searching for that wizard. I mean, what happened to Dorothy? She kept thinking that she needed the wizard to get her back home, and she kept trying to find the antidote. And when she got there, they told her, oh my God, you had the power all along. And she thought, what? Why didn't you tell me? And the good witch said, because you wouldn't have believed me. You had to find it out for yourself. You wouldn't have believed me. And that is exactly right. It's the belief. You don't believe. We don't believe that we're okay. We don't believe we have the power. And remember, even with a 1% shift in awareness, you can solve an old problem in a new way. So when you walk out this door, you are able to solve that old problem in a new way. Because all those solutions that you'll find out there are aimed at someone who has a problem. And you don't have a problem. You were never broken. There was nothing to fix. And all those things will keep you out there. And it's not going on out there. It's all going on in here. There is a revolutionary new mindset, a new way of being that rocks on all cylinders: spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. We have better things to do with our time and better, wondrous ways to do with our energy. The world is really too good to miss. It really is. If you knew how perfect and magnificent you were, it would scare the magnificence right out of you. And I will be here reminding you of this magnificence until the day you can see it in yourself. Are you ready? Are you ready? Thank you very much. Thank you.
We're 1,000 miles from comfort.